Good evening, UC Bearcat fans. It's UC Bearcats on the prowl, of course, with Mike Goodpaster and James Ernest. But we are excited this week. We have a special guest. Dominick Goodman is going to be on to discuss the UCLA game that just happened and the UC game in the future. I mean, the OSU game in the future, and of course, what Dominick's been up to. So, Mike, tell us what's your thoughts from the UCLA game.
Well, I think that they've got a lot of things to clean up, but Dominick, we'll just throw it to you. I mean, game one of the season, you're kind of just trying to get your sea legs and see what you're made of as a football team. And the good thing here is you're playing UCLA on national television. The most important thing is they got the win.
Yeah, that's always important to get the win. But I wasn't too. I think it was a good showing for him. The first game, he got them jitters. He's been at camp all week, hitting each other, and he finally get to put it on somebody else. So they got some things to clean up. But I like the way they move the ball up and down the field. They left some points out there, but they still moved it up, and defense made plays. As far as coming up with turnovers at the right times and stopping them in the red zone.
Yeah, and the thing that really impressed me, Dominick, was the offensive line.
Yeah, the offensive line was big, and they were really doing good, giving Reddish some time in the pocket and giving some space and opportunity to make plays on the sheet and in the air.
All right, James, what was your takeaway from the first game? What was the atmosphere like at Nippert?
The atmosphere was great, 38,000 plus. They were really into the game. The UC student section did get a little bit ruckus, not in a good way, when UCLA started to make it a competitive game in the third quarter. But other than that, it was a great atmosphere.
Yeah, and the great thing about this team, Dominick, is you've got a really solid quarterback in Desmond Ridder, and the running game between Michael Warren, Gerald Dokes, I mean, they are a multifaceted offense, which makes them a lot harder to defend.
Yeah, that's a great thing, especially having backs like that, making the defense have to honor the run a lot and giving a chance for the deep ball to be exposed for the receivers with a lot of play action, and seems like defense has got to honor that.
Yeah, and what's your takeaway on the wide receivers? You got Alex Pierce, Joshua DeGuara, Ja'Shawn Jackson, Michael Warren out of the backfield, Thomas Geddes. I mean, he completed passes, Riddle did to 7 or 8 different receivers.
And that's a good thing. I like I like what they have going on, especially on offense. All the skill players seem like they're there to make plays and they can make them at any moment, and that's great. That's a great feeling for a quarterback, just be able to know he can throw it to anybody, and anytime they can make a play at any certain moment of the game.
Yeah, and defensively, James, I mean, when you look at this, they held, Dorian Thompson-Robinson to 8 for 26 for 156 yards. They had 2 interceptions. The run defense was solid again, gave up less than 100 yards. So I think what we take away from this game is defensively, this team's really good.
Exactly. Despite the losses they had on the front line last year, and despite the injury for the safety, there's the darn safety's name that got injured. Oh, James Wiggins. Despite him being injured, they still were able to do some amazing things.
Yeah, and the thing is this. I mean, Dominick played football at UC. Cole Rain played for the Cleveland Gladiators, and you know yourself, you're going to have injuries during the season, whether it's week 1 or week 3, and you just got to have guys that can step up.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It was something that Coach Kelly brought when he came to coach. To say next man in, everybody always got to be ready because you don't know anytime he's going to go down.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah. I was going to say, and Hicks definitely did that for playing for Wiggins. Unfortunately, though, he did have some penalties, so you did see some kind of rough around the edges things. But, I mean, he ended up getting the turnover and making some big plays when it came down to it.
Yeah, and penalties aren't always a bad thing. You got to be aggressive, James.
Yeah, but hands to the face, you could go without those because that ended up extending that drive. And if the quarterback, yeah.
And UC also got away with UCLA turning the ball over to him a couple times in the red zone, too.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, because I know what you mean. The turnovers really hurt them, and then of course the one big running play. I was going to say, as a coach, do you worry more so about the big plays, or more worry about the consistent tearing down of the team? With 10, 15-yard chunks.
well,
Coach.
see, I think the thing you see though, you worry about the big plays, and I think Dominic, you can speak to this too, because defensively, if you make a team take 10 or 15 plays to go down there, like UCLA inside the red zone, they're more likely to make a mistake.
Yeah, that's correct. Because the big plays give momentum, and just some chunk plays they got to work and drive down, and that kind of takes away on the line and everybody else.
Yeah, and when we look at this, because now we're going to transition to Ohio State, and I know you played some big games when you were at UC, Dominic. So you played on a Thursday night, say. Saturday you're sitting there watching Ohio State. What goes through your mind when you watch that game? And I'm sure the preparation for Ohio State started right after Thursday night's game.
It's some things just like any other team. You see their weaknesses on certain things, and you just gotta capitalize on the weaknesses and just make plays when the opportunity comes and when turnovers happen. You just gotta capitalize on everything you get a chance to, especially in big games like that. So you just gotta basically just capitalize on every chance you get.
And I'll tell you.
So
go ahead, James.
I was going to say, so you're saying Coach Fickle was blowing smoke when he said he was going to take 2 days and just bask in the enjoyment of the UCLA game, that he wasn't worried about OSU right away?
Nah, you know that. He was already, after the game, he was probably getting the film together.
Oh, they probably were breaking down Ohio State film all summer.
Yeah, I could believe that it just seemed odd when he was saying that, trying to sell us that bill of goods, that he wasn't worried about them, that he was just enjoying the moment, and that he was happy for his players about the UCLA game. I'm like, no, you've been highlighted that, circled it on the calendar, that kind of thing, that the focus is definitely that game, because that game can make and break the season to go from just a great season to something historical.
Yeah, and when we talk about historical there, before we talk about Ohio State, the AAC had a good weekend, took down an SEC team with Memphis. Houston's not having a whole lot of luck against Oklahoma right now, but the AAC is a tough enough conference now with the UCF. Even Temple's been good the last year or two. The Dominic, UC has a chance to really have a historic season, because if you can somehow get the Ohio State game, UCF's going to be ranked in the top 15 probably after this week. So there's something that could really start to build some momentum if you get a win against Ohio State.
That'd be big, because that's something that haven't happened, and that's like that gives them the momentum throughout the season, just to continue on with that play, getting them mentally ready for each game, especially UCF get that win. So if they rank, no telling where they'd be ranked at by that time, but they keep playing like they're playing just to improve each week. I think they'd be fine and be able to have that incredible season.
Yeah, and the great thing about this is, you guys probably aren't old enough to remember this, but when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, I mean, UC routinely lost 56-0 in front of 2,000 people at Nippert Stadium, and there was even calls for doing what Xavier did and actually disbanding the football program at some points during that time. And to see the team playing on national TV in a packed house in a renovated Nippert Stadium is really great to see as somebody who's grown up in the tri-state area.
Definitely agree with you. I mean, it is just so nice to see how UC has grown. Obviously, one of the people that have helped to shape UC is Dominic. I mean, you and your teammates open the doors, you built the program. What do you think about the current team?
I think good things right now. With the new team now, as far as they've really digging in and bringing that culture back, pretty much. That is basically bringing that toughness to it, and just getting them guys, bringing guys back from the past. The coaching staff was a great thing he did. And So the kids starting to get the culture a lot and changing the momentum of it and how things are, and they're just having a spectacular. Since last year, they're doing good to me. So I just feel like they're gonna continue with that same energy.
Damn, Dominic. I'll tell you real quick, I got to bring this up because I just looked up Dominic for the hell of it. He was born in 1987. That's the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, man.
You're making me feel old now.
So, Dominic, I want to run another one that I thought was kind of interesting that Coach Fickle said. He said that Ritter had lost his voice sometime in the first or second quarter, but he continued to play in the game. Have you ever played with anyone that had lost their voice and couldn't communicate, especially a quarterback?
Yeah, a couple of times with Mock and with Pike. Just that fact that you basically play calling at the line, especially when you're in the spread. You gotta communicate with everybody, running backs, linemen, and receivers, and try to get it out there with all that crowd, with everybody yelling. You gotta yell, but you end up figuring out the ways once you lose it, though.
Yeah, and we look at Ohio State. They beat Florida Atlantic 45-21. I'll tell you, I watched the first 8 minutes and it scared the hell out of me for UC when they came out and put 28 points right away. But when you look at this Ohio State team, there's questions just because Ryan Day's now the head coach instead of Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer, I think, is one of the great coaches in college football history. But you got Justin Fields at quarterback, J.K. Dobbins as a rusher. And the thing about Justin Fields is he's a dual-threat quarterback. So what do you think UC does to defend this high-powered offense, Dominic?
I'll pretty much just try ways to just slow it down, just killing their momentum in a way, and just try to keep the quarterback one-dimensional. Really, just stop the run and make them pass. And I think with the secondary, the way they're playing, I think they make them stops and slow Ohio State down.
Yeah, James, did Coach Fickle say anything about the Ohio State game, or did he just kind of shy away from it completely?
He kept shying away from it. Anytime anyone would bring it up, he really didn't want to talk about it. He just wanted to focus on the UCLA game they just had, wanted to focus on just how back-to-back years, them winning the game was just a huge game. It was a great way to start off the season. And then, of course, his favorite player to talk about was the tight end, and I'm going to butcher his name, but he's the senior. He's one of the captains, and the one how he scored the touchdown, and then he stopped the touchdown. And that was the big part, was how he stopped that touchdown, the interception on the goal line. He was very enthused about that.
Yeah, and when you look at this game, James, I mean, you've been around the team a little bit. You covered the game for the Grueling Truth Thursday night. Is this what you would say a confident team going into this game?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, after Coach Fickle was done, Warren came in. He was very confident, and then one of the defensive players, and you could just tell that they truly do believe in their team, especially, after last year's 11-2 record and then another strong start this year. I mean, even when there were times, because that was the weird thing about the game, because like Dominic was saying, the offense was moving the ball consistently, but then they would have that snag, they would have, that mess up. And despite all that, despite the turnovers, they still, the entire game, there was no at any point where you go, okay, here we go again. That we're gonna win this. So there was no doubt. There was no concern. There was no kind of basically how we felt in 2016 with the nightmare, where you're like, yeah, we're gonna find a way to lose. No, these guys were like, we're gonna find a way to win.
Yeah, and I think for me the star of this game was Luke Collingsworth, who was the offensive tackle. He had a great night against UCLA. And this is why I think UC has such a chance to win this game, because they're going to go up against a big, strong Big Ten team. But offensive line-wise, Dominic, I think these guys can play with anybody from what I saw.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that's where the battles will win up front. And just that right there alone, I think it will give us a lot of to help us still develop the run and still get the pass off. And I think it's going to be a good game. I'm excited to go watch it and see what happens.
So what do you think's the big key to this game, James? And I do an IU show too. I'm sorry about that. But Cincinnati getting the win over Ohio State. I just do it because I couldn't find anybody else to do it. By the way, but go ahead.
No, I think the big thing about it is going to be, the defense, being able to keep them in the game. Obviously, both offenses are really good. They're really solid. Ohio State's defense isn't as good as it was last year. At least that's what the experts are saying. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to tell them they're not as good as they were last year. But I think the UC offense is going to be able to score. I think they're going to be competitive, and I think they're going to be able to move the ball. But it's just the question is, can they get that big stop? Can they make that big play when they need it?
Yeah, and Dominic, I think James asked the question about explosive plays, and I think that will be the difference in this game this week. I think that if UC can limit explosive plays, I think they've got a really good chance to win the game.
Yeah, that's true. Because, like I said, like before, them explosive plays, that leads to momentum. If you can just kind of change that momentum and keep the momentum going for UC, I think the results turn out good.
All right, James?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just, I think this is going to be that big upset. I think this is going to be the time that's going to get UC the national attention it deserves. I think they're going to end up winning the game, and it'll end up being, obviously it's going to be close. Actually, that is kind of my one concern, actually, is the kicking. Because we ended up having the kicker, the new guy from Western Michigan, and unfortunately he ended up missing one early in the game. And obviously they can't afford to do that against OSU. So as long as he can stay clean and hit all the field goals and extra points that he needs to, that Coach Fickle puts him out there for, I think they can end up stealing one and winning by 3 or 7, something to that extent.
All right. Very good. James, you want to talk to Dominic a little bit about what he's doing now? And then we'll pick the game at the end of the show. We'll keep everybody in suspense. Even though James already gave up his pick, I think.
I did, unfortunately. You are correct. So, Dominic, what have you been up to? I know you had been doing some coaching last time we talked.
Oh, yeah. I was coaching at Princeton High School with Mike Daniels, with Coach Daniels. But this year I kind of took a seat back. I'm actually I started a business for Goody 16 LLC, where we basically provide putting on flag leagues, and I have a flag football organization out of it, and we also do camps and clinics throughout the summer. And right now we linked up with the YMCA as far as we putting on a free clinic for a football clinic at the Clipper YMCA in Coleraine on September 14th, and then we starting the flag league for the ages 7 to 13-year-olds at Clipper YMCA October 4th. So I've been busy doing that, getting everything together with that. I work at JF Dallas. I work with special needs kids. I've been doing that for a while, and pretty much I've just been staying busy. I went back to school to finish my degree for this fall. I graduate this fall, and hopefully getting to college coaching after that. So I've just been busy just handling that, and I started a foundation, Great Kids, Great Smiles.
Wow, so it sounds like you've been up to a lot of stuff, like you said, giving back to the community, helping out with those great organizations, and then, like you mentioned, your current job, helping out the young people. Wow, that's remarkable. But on top of that, also going to school, how do you find the time?
I'm doing online classes right now, so it gives me a chance to adjust with assignments being due each week. I kind of find my way and find my time once everything's done around 6 or 8. And I just get locked in and do it, and just continue on, just getting a routine.
Come on, James. You don't have anything else to say? Did we lose James? We lost James. All right, because he's trying to call back in. So, Goody, you talked about college coaching. So that is your end game, what you want to do with your life?
Yeah, because coaching is like a real big thing. I got into it with Coach Bolden, helped me get into it, and coaching at Coran, just being around a lot of great coaches such as Coach Combs, Coach Kelly, Coach Antonio, and Coach Bolden, and Coach Daniels gave me a chance to really just I'm passionate for the kids, helping the kids succeed and helping them learn the game of football. That's pretty much all I do. Is just work with football.
All right, James, you back?
Yes, I'm back.
All right.
Shoot, unfortunately, technical difficulties. But, yeah, I mean, that is great when you can change lives and give back. Obviously, Coach, you can relate to that. You've recently took a team to a national title game.
Yeah.
Or last year. I mean, so you definitely can relate to the importance of giving back and helping out young people in football.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. I mean, from everything I've coached, I've had more fun at lower levels coaching high school football than I have at higher levels, just because you can have more of an impact on kids than anything else. I mean, because a lot of those kids need guidance because maybe they don't have it in a home. And anytime you can take what you love and not just win games, but help people out, I think that's huge. I think that's what you're supposed to do with your life, is you're supposed to help others.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, of course, the younger players, I think, are going to be more acceptable to the coaching and actually willing to listen. Because I was going to say, unfortunately, some of the players that we've had over the years, they definitely could have used life lessons and coaching, but they just they wouldn't take it for anything. So unfortunately, had to part ways with some of them.
Okay. Well, you're lucky I never parted ways with you, James. But you used to come up with that free food all the time for us.
Exactly. So, yeah, no one's going to kick out the guy that brings the free food.
I know.
Yeah,
Dominic, that was James's hook with the River Monsters and all the other teams with is just, if he'd piss me off, he'd just show up with free food in the morning the next day and everything was good.
Exactly. Dude, I know how to make people happy. I know how to butter the bread. Yeah.
But, all right, guys, we look at the game. Give me your pick and your score, James.
The score is going to be 37-34 UC.
All right. Dominic?
I'm going 34-28 UC.
All right. We're all going to have to pick UC. But it is a UC show. But me and Joe Kelly do a Cincinnati Bengals show, and we hardly ever pick the Bengals because that would just be stupid. But I'm going to take the UC Bearcats to win this game 27-24. And then all of a sudden our show becomes more important, James. And I would like to thank everybody that listened last week, because on The Grueling Truth, it was the highest rated show. We had from checking it today, over 9,000 people listen to last week's show. So I want to thank everybody that listened.
Oh, wow. That was really nice.
I know. I wasn't expecting that either. So there's a little momentum for UC football, and hopefully it keeps up because, we'll get numbers like that for me and Joe Kelly on the Bengals show the first couple of weeks. And by the time we get to week 12, it's just 3 people listening outside of us.
Awesome.
But you want to wrap it up, James, or you want me to wrap it up?
Yes. Well, before I wrap it up, I was going to ask Dominique what teams – when he gets to watch, who does he like to watch in today's game? Who are some of the favorites that he has?
In college or NFL?
A little bit of both. I mean, what type of game? What type of team do you feel is entertaining and enjoyable to watch?
Yeah, I always enjoy watching Alabama and a lot of SEC games. As far as just that speed and just how they play, like Clemson, for instance, I just like it's just fun to watch. There's always a big play being made, and they just spread it out and just play like run and shoot. I kind of like those type of style of games. NFL wise,
yeah, they can be quite exciting. Yeah, it was great having you back on the show. I was going to say, for those that don't know, Dominick was a big part of the show a couple of years ago, and we definitely enjoyed having him on. Would like to thank...
Did we lose James again? James must have T-Mobile service. Let's see. Hopefully they don't want to be a sponsor of the show. We'll get James back on here real quick so he can give us his final thoughts.
Hello, I'm James Ernest.
Oh, now we get look at that. He's big-timing us. He just gave us that.
I can't come to the phone.
James has probably got cricket service. All right, guys, I want to thank Dominick for coming on, James for coming on. I want to remind you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, whatever the hell that is, Google Play, and over 200 different media outlets that now pick us up. We want you to listen every Sunday night where we'll be here at 10 o'clock talking UC football. So for now, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. For Dominick Goodman, James Ernest, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.